They thought he was gone, erased, swallowed by the chaos he once commanded. For months, American intelligence circled shadows, chasing whispers in the dust. But what they didn't know was that Saddam Hussein, the butcher of Baghdad, was not hiding in a foreign palace or across some border. He was buried beneath the very soil he once ruled, breathing the air of his old empire.
Saddam Hussein was a bad guy.
Disarming Saddam Hussein now. My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
It's December 13th, 2003. Tikrit, Iraq. An elite Delta Force unit crouches in silence, the moon casting long shadows over a quiet farmhouse. In front of them, a broken shack, a concrete floor, and something off, something too clean. A metal hatch barely wider than a sewer lid. They pry it open, and what they see is burned into military legend. Inside, curled like a ghost in a grave, is Saddam Hussein. Dirty, bearded, powerless. But the road to that moment wasn't just luck. It was the result of a manhunt that defied every expectation. Because while the world searched cities, palaces, and mountains, the CIA followed something far more valuable patterns. They hunted not the man, but his habits, his loyalties, his silence. And ultimately, the very people he trusted to protect him were the ones who led America straight to him. What followed was one of the most intense, high-stakes operations in modern military history, one that exposed how the world's most wanted fugitive slipped into myth and how the US tore that myth apart piece by piece. To understand how America found Saddam, we need to rewind, not just to the 2003 invasion, but to the years of silence that followed. After the fall of Baghdad, US forces scoured palaces, cities, and desert hideouts. They captured his sons, Uday and Qusay, in a dramatic Mosul raid. They raided safe houses, tortured the soil for signs, interrogated loyalists, but Saddam vanished, not even a whisper. The CIA knew something wasn't adding up. Intelligence didn't just dry up like this. Men like Saddam don't just disappear. So they shifted focus, not to the man, but to the web that surrounded him. Family, tribal loyalties, former bodyguards. The Special Republican Guard. The goal wasn't to chase him directly, but to map the shadows. And that's where the breakthrough came. Not from satellites, not from drones, but from a name, Muhammad Ibrahim al-Muslit, a former aide, trusted, quiet, and rarely in the spotlight. The CIA believed if anyone was still in contact with Saddam, it was him. So they hunted him. It took months, countless dead ends. But in early December 2003, a tip came through. Ibrahim had been spotted, captured, and what he told interrogators, it cracked the case wide open. He didn't give a location, not exactly, but he pointed them toward a small cluster of farms near Ad-Dar, not far from Tikrit, Saddam's hometown. The US launched Operation Red Dawn, named after the 1984 film about American resistance fighters. It was symbolic, because this was a resistance of a different kind, the last breath of a fallen regime. Two sites were targeted, Wolverine 1 and Wolverine 2, simple farms with broken buildings and dirt floors. The mission began at dawn. Soldiers flooded the compounds. Buildings were cleared, tunnels checked, nothing. But something felt off. One soldier noticed a patch of ground near a shack. Slightly disturbed earth. They swept the area, a wire, a handle, and beneath it, the rabbit hole. They called it a spider hole, 6 feet deep, barely wide enough to lie down. And at the bottom, blinking up at them, was Saddam. Disoriented, holding a pistol, but not resisting. He said just one thing. I am Saddam Hussein, the president of Iraq, and I want to negotiate.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
There would be no negotiation. The footage of his capture went global. A man once seen as a titan of the Middle East, now pulled from a hole like a fugitive rodent. His beard long, his face haggard, his power gone. But this moment wasn't just about capturing a dictator. It was about proving that even the most elusive, most feared men can't outrun truth forever. Saddam's trial would follow, so would his execution. But in that one December morning, the myth ended. and the man was exposed. The hunt for Saddam wasn't about technology or firepower. It was about patience, psychology, pattern recognition. It was about looking where no one else dared to look, into the silence, into the tribal roots, into the soil. Because sometimes the most powerful hiding place is the one closest to home. But the operation's precision masked years of frustration, internal conflict, and intelligence blunders. Within months of the 2003 invasion, U.S. military forces were certain Saddam had escaped to Syria or was hiding in remote deserts. Thousands of troops combed through Iraqi terrain. Hundreds of raids yielded nothing. The former dictator had become a ghost. It was a ghost that left behind confusion. The CIA found itself split. One wing favored continued technical surveillance. Another, led by human intelligence specialists, pushed for tribal mapping, a laborious, slow process of identifying Saddam's most loyal networks piece by piece. They started with the obvious: Takriti clans. Saddam's inner circle had always been close-knit, fiercely loyal and tribal by nature. So analysts began charting family trees, comparing names from payroll records, Republican Guard documents, and footage from parades. They compiled a list of 300 people most likely to be in Saddam's orbit. Of those 300, nearly 250 were captured or killed. And still, nothing. Not a word. Saddam wasn't using phones. No digital trace, no intercepted communications. Just silence. Then came the psychological profiling. Analysts believed Saddam, a man obsessed with symbolism and history, would never stray far from his birthplace. Tikrit wasn't just his home, it was his legacy. His empire had begun there, and it would end there. The breakthrough wasn't a high-tech hack, it was human error. One of Saddam's couriers, young, tired, and cornered, was caught traveling between farms without proper identification. He cracked under pressure, not with a name but a direction. That was enough. Delta Force operators already stationed near Tikrit received new orders. They would strike not one but two sites simultaneously. The final sweep was fast, brutal, methodical. Helicopters hovered. Trucks rumbled through dirt roads. Every corner, every tunnel, every room cleared. Then came the hole. And history. The story could have ended there, but it didn't. Saddam's capture ignited a different fire across Iraq. To some, it was the end of tyranny. To others, it was the final insult. Insurgency spiked. Violence escalated. The myth of Saddam had been shattered, but the chaos he left behind would take years to contain. In captivity, Saddam remained defiant. He refused to recognize the court's legitimacy. He denied war crimes. He wrote poetry. He argued about international law. But for all his bravado, the walls of his cell were real, and the justice closing in was unstoppable. 3 years later, on December 30th, 2006, Saddam Hussein was executed. It was quick. But the debate about that moment still echoes. Was it justice or revenge? History remembers the dictator, the monster, but history also remembers the silence. The months when the world believed he was gone, when he watched from beneath the earth, when he became the ghost of Iraq, and then when America reached down into the darkness and pulled him into the light.